Welcome everyone to the 2019 Mazda 3. I have been desperately excited to drive this new car as I'm an owner of the now previous generation 2017 Mazda 3 hatchback. Now, as someone that's had a lot of experience with the previous generation car, what I really want to find out in this review goes along with all of the claims that Mazda is making towards this new car. They say it's quieter than ever before, better to drive, more refined, and moving more upscale to try and compete against more premium names. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go for a very in-depth tour of this car and discover everything that there is to know about driving and living with it. And then at the end of this video, I'll place it in my ranking system to see where it lies against other compact sedans. Also with this car, I will be doing a full comparison between this car and my old car and share every nerdy detail that is different between this one and my one. And then also comparing this car to a much more premium nameplate in a car that's also new for this year in the same sort of space. I'll have to tell you what that is at the end of the video though. So without further ado, let's go for a drive. The 2019 Mazda 3, a compact sedan or hatchback built on an all-new platform for the brand. This is going to be the architecture, the foundation of all of future Mazda products. There have been a lot of resources that Mazda has put into this car, and it shows. The quality of it, the way things are put together, and so much of this car is new. The interior is a whole new design. The exterior pushes the Kodo design language even further on. The window switches, the dial unit we have down here for the infotainment system. All-wheel drive is available for the first time ever in a Mazda 3 and engines with cylinder deactivation. The indicator stalks, the key fob, and even the text font that they're using on the back end of this car is all totally new. Touching on the key quickly, if you've come across any of the recent Volvo products, it's the same sort of design, that rectangular shape with the buttons on the side. It does feel like the cheapest part of this car's experience. It isn't very hefty, it feels a little hollow. And with that all-wheel drive, there's a few different powertrain setups that you can get with this all-new Mazda 3. You have the ability to have either a 6-speed manual or automatic transmission in this car, but if you want the all-wheel drive, you have to go with the larger 2.5-litre engine and the automatic transmission. The 2-litre engine in the entry-level models has a power output of 155 horsepower, and the larger engine, the 2.5, is able to produce 186 horsepower and pound-feet of torque with cylinder deactivation. As far as I know, the cylinder deactivation is working in this car, but there is no indication on the screen or any noticeable change. I would like to have a little indication on the screen just so I know I'm contributing to a smaller carbon footprint with this car when I'm coasting down a hill per se. Now, both of those 4-cylinder engines lack turbocharging. That isn't just a rare thing to find in this segment, but the car industry as a whole at this point in time. Mazda has made a point in proving that it can build cars that are fun to drive, and throwing this car up a bit of a mountain road is really good fun. Yes, the engine isn't all that powerful, about 4,000 RPM. It loses a lot of its steam, but it has enough punch down low to really get you off of the line. It has a torque vectoring system for the front wheels, so with this, the computer can limit the amount of torque that goes to each wheel. And the brakes in this car are fantastic. In just regular driving, just like I'm braking right now, there is absolutely no brake dive whatsoever. Even in the hardest, most desperate of emergency braking situations, the car barely pitches down at all. Yeah, it's not quick, and for this kind of category, there's a lot of turbocharged cars that feel more exciting down low, but this one will easily project you into a merging situation or when you need to quickly overtake someone. That can be done with very little drama. And here's something that's really important to me when it comes to sport mode. Just turned it on. I'm going to move over into manual shifting mode. I'm going to cog down a bit, Okay, we're in first gear now. Listen to this. You hear that? When you're in manual shifting mode, the car won't shift at red line. I rant and I rant and I rant when it comes to cars with manual shifting modes. If they're just regular driving experiences or they're vehicles that are supposed to be sporty, I want to shift the gears myself. I want to suffer the consequences if I cock it up. That's what makes driving fun. You can learn from your mistakes and you can learn how to be a more effective driver. And with that system, it is pushing the ideology further that Mazda makes cars that are fun and involving to drive. Big props to you, Mazda. But when it comes to regular day-to-day commuting, what Mazda wanted to talk about the most with this new car is how they've improved the NVH. And as someone that currently owns a 2018 Mazda 3, my biggest issue with it is that it's quite loud in comparison to even some cars in its class. But driving this on the highway at 110 kilometers an hour in this or that car is honestly night and day. It's contributing what Mazda really wants out of this car, to try and make it a more premium spaced. And when something's quiet and refined, that's a luxury feature, and this Mazda excels in that. Here's a major change that came along with this Mazda that had sort of the same reaction to it as many people had with the latest Volkswagen Jetta. They have ditched independent rear suspension and gone with a solid beam rear axle. This is a method to save a little bit of money. It's simpler to build. Yeah, this would contribute to perhaps a little more bouncy of a ride, but I only experienced this on the absolute worst of washboarding roads. Day-to-day situation, I'd actually say this is comfier than my other Mazda 3. It's still firm, you still kind of pitch and dive, and you can feel a lot of the bumps and the imperfections on the road, where I never really had much of an issue with the other Mazda 3. In comparison now, that old car just seems like a crashy mess. And yes, the interior design is now different, so the driver has his or her own dedicated air vents. Screen in itself, Mazda has actually ditched touch screens altogether in this car. It's an 8.8-inch screen, really high resolution, has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration. Little bit of an issue that I have when it comes to the Apple CarPlay integration. It's the same with any vehicle that doesn't have a touch screen. I was just talking about this in my Audi SQ5 review, is that if you're ever using maps on your Apple CarPlay, the issue that you can encounter is if you ever need to zoom in and out and look for something else on the map, look how many button presses you have to do to try and negotiate around. It's a lot of work, and I feel like you take your eyes off of the road for too long. And this is where a touchscreen would be much, much easier. We have some stitched leather up along the dashboard. The seats are leather where I rest my arms, and the top of the door card is nicely soft plastics. Everything from the knees up feels premium. Below, yeah, it's hard touch plastics here at the bottom of the door cards and just underneath the tunnel here. This car does have piano black plastic here in the center as a main feature, and I really don't like seeing that in cars. This thing barely has 1,000 kilometers on it, and it's already scratched up a fair bit. But if you look closely, there's a second layer just below. The light has to catch it just right. Still, if there was an option for it to be something else, I would much rather have that than the piano black plastic. The dampening of the cup hole cover is gorgeous. There's a little storage behind it as well, and no wireless phone charging available in this car. If this is something you have to have in this Mazda, or ventilated seats, that's not available at all. The center console slides back and forward very neatly. There's a splitting component that you have in there, and just a fabric piece of material that isn't held in place. So that could be an issue to someone that wants that piece of material glued down. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure you could find an issue with it. I don't have a personal complaint. As far as I can tell, one of the few carryover components from the previous generation Mazda and this new one is the gear lever. It's the same sort of setup, same look. The sport button down on the side is a little bit different, but this single component seems to be the largest relation to the previous car. The 7-inch digital instrument cluster is standard equipment in this car, and this is a carryover component as well that I've seen in the latest Mazda CX-5 and CX-9 and so on. The swivel wheel that you use to control your infotainment system is nearly as good as what it is in an Audi. You see the volume knob now actually has the ability to skip tracks. That's something that it couldn't do before, and instead of tilting to the side like my car does, it slides left to right, forwards and backwards. When you're in the main system menu, you can see the swivel wheels behind it kind of shadowing for each effect that you put through the physical arrangement themselves. In comparison to other brands, I would say this interior feels just as good as some of the best Lexus products that I've come across in my time. When it comes to the rear seats of this Mazda 3 sedan, at the very least, it's a little lackluster. You see this central compartment has nothing. No vents, no temperature controls, no charging ports. If you're 6'4" like me, you'll struggle to sit behind yourself. It can happen, but you probably won't want to spend a long time back there. And the trunk is ginormous. You have some pulleys that you can lower the seats if you want to. And I can't finish this review without saying just how good looking this Mazda 3 is. In the past, when it came to the Mazda 3 hatchback and the sedan, I always thought that the hatchback was designed first and then the sedan was a bit of an afterthought. The rear end always looked a bit wonky, in my opinion, but this car fully grows into a product that feels like it was designed separately to the hatchback. The grille dominates the front in a way that so many other brands just can't get right, and there aren't really any lines in the car. It's all very smooth and flowing. You can't really distinguish where an edge begins and ends. Mazda truly has made a winning product here. It's beautiful to sit in, wonderful to drive, and quite the looker as well. This, without a doubt, is a segment leader in its category, and comparing to other cars with premium badges and much more expensive price tags, this may finally be the car to dethrone them. Well, I say that. Maybe this is finally the car that needs to be compared against another compact sedan with a 3 in its name. Thanks for watching. Hit that notification bell to see my review of whatever this comparison video is, and the comparison video between this car here and my personal Mazda 3. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.